Will you talk about this next one?
You already made that joke. I'm sure you're gonna cut the other part of that out, and also this where I'm explaining that. But I'm calling you out personally.
We're back, baby.
Hooray!
Episode 3.
Episode 1 hasn't even been released, and we're already on episode 3.
Shh. This is how it works in this. You create the content, you edit the content, and then you present it.
Oh, gosh. I guess if you want to be like that.
I mean, clearly you are clearly the more immature of us two. So I think it
That's
only
crazy.
time to have a serious sit down with you and talk about, the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees, or at least the birds and the bees and the flowers.
Okay.
Because this is Sects and Violets.
But we did have sex last night, so I don't know why we're talking about it now. Anyway.
Did you do any sort of pre-thinking about characters in Sects and Violets? Because I did, and I noticed a pattern that I think we're going to discuss very early on, but we'll see.
That would require me to do thinking.
Right? Yeah, not your strong suit.
Which is a thing that I don't do.
Okay.
But I've played Sects and Violets more than BMR, so I should be better than BMR for
Great.
this.
Lovely.
There's no minstrel in the script, so
that's fair. That's fair. This has other problems. Well, let's get right down to it. Let's dive right in with the only top 4 in Sects and Violets. It's interesting, actually. I don't think I realized until just now that BMR and Sects and Violets each have only one top 4.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep, that's why Clockmakers just die super early every game, which is what makes them somewhat of a not great bluff for it. I've seen Clockmakers get it to the final 3, but if you're a Clockmaker and you make it to the final 3, I'm voting on you. It's very powerful information, though.
Yeah.
So giving a wrong number, or giving, even giving the right number, but you are part of that number. So clearly, if you were evil, you wouldn't be in that number.
Yeah.
Is very powerful, but also you have no defense to stay alive for any amount of time. And if you do stay alive for any amount of time, people are going to be suspicious of you because you stayed alive for any amount of time as the Clockmaker. So it's fine. It's not a great evil bluff, but it's fine. If your number makes sense, you can make it.
I also think it's really important to raise that unlike TB, unlike BMR, Sects and Violets is very information heavy. And I mean, TB has some amount of information, but Sects and Violets is the information solving Grim. And in addition, there is the potential for any game at any time in Sects and Violets to include a Vortox, which mandates execution. In TB and BMR, you can get away with, not all top 4s being executed. But if you come out as a Clockmaker, oh boy, I would honestly expect to be put on the block as a last resort day 1. And if you're not okay with that, it's not a great bluff. I think it is powerful information. I think if I'm giving Clockmaker as a bluff specifically, I'm trying to hint at the demon that, yeah, maybe there's an evil twin. I think that's the interaction that I would heavily avoid or maybe not risk as a storyteller. Clockmaker with an evil twin, can spell just sort of instant doom for evil. But I tend to agree. There is the sort of meta of, we shouldn't kill all top 4s immediately. But when you're looking for that very first kill in a possible Vortox game, the only top 4 on the Grim is probably better than any of the other roles that could gain some amount of ongoing information.
Yep.
And so, I'm inclined to start off with, start off good and proper with C. I don't
know if I would want to put it all the way down in C.
You think it's a B?
Well, it is the only top 4, but also there's plenty of times where a Seamstress artist can use their ability day 1, or
That's true.
An outsider wants to not get Fang Gu and jump 2. So it's not immediately the worst, but I think it's fine if you're a minion who's fine to get thrown away, or a Fang Gu who's gonna jump. But I don't know about C, so
I'll put it in B. I don't.
If you want to put it in C, it's your YouTube channel. You can do whatever you want.
Listen, this is a collaborative effort, Guggie.
B for Clockmaker.
B for Clockmaker. Fine. That has to be the thing now.
Yep.
Dreamer.
I think Dreamer is great when you have a spy or a widow in play. There's a problem with that though, Etreides. If you've noticed, I don't know if you've realized, but there's no spy nor widow on this script, which makes Dreamer a little bit weird. Why it's on this script, I don't know. I genuinely have no clue why that would be on this script. It's fine in a Vortox game, or if you're just from day one gonna frame a Vortox game, but otherwise, you're just gonna die because you're wrong. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, you'd have to really play your cards right. I don't think it's as horrible, but it definitely relies on you and your team coordinating very well in terms of collecting information, and not just information, but true information about other people, and then just sort of falling in. You do always have the opportunity to, just sort of dream the rest of your evil team. But same sort of perils as aligning yourself with anyone. Once it comes out that you're not the dreamer, that's not going to look good. Alternatively, though, there's the possibility that, your evil team is just oh, well, they're clearly evil, and they're just trying to throw us under the bus with suspicious dreamer information. But yeah, dreamer is very rough as a bluff on this script. The sort of nice thing about receiving Dreamer as a bluff is one is not in play, and Dreamer is an incredibly powerful role in almost any game outside of maybe a Vortox game. And even in a Vortox game, a Dreamer is a powerful role because as the storyteller, if the Dreamer dreams the demon or either of the minions, I'm more inclined to make it immediately look like a Vortox world. Because I don't want to give the Dreamer, a demon bluff, just in case the demon or the minions walk into that and now have to sell a non-Vortox world, or maybe a no Dashii world. I guess that wouldn't be bad. But yeah, Dreamer's rough on this script.
Mm-hmm.
D for Dreamer?
D for Dreamer.
D for Dreamer.
D for Don't Bluff Dreamer.
D for probably not on the script.
Nope.
The fun one.
Oh, what's the fun one? You mean Snake Charmer?
Snake Charmer.
Whoa. I mean,
Based on last
like,
night, you're a pretty good snake charmer.
I honestly can't remember what that's alluding to. I don't remember being the snake charmer. What did I do? I don't remember. Probably something fun.
Sex, Guggie.
Snake
It was the sex.
Oh,
Snake charmer.
early in the morning.
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, like, I don't know. You're gonna be hiding anyway, so if you're gonna be bluffing Snake Charmer, you might as well be bluffing something else first. Because if you're claiming Snake Charmer while alive, that's a little interesting. I don't know. Let's kill the Snake Charmer because that's gonna create problems. But I think that, like, if you're a Fang Gu who died, or a Vigormortis killed minion, or like a minion who got executed earlier, claiming that you're actually just the Snake Charmer, especially if you got into double claim early, is pretty good backup. Like, oh, I'm in a double claim, I'm gonna back into this and not worry about it. And it's one of the more powerful roles in the script as well, and I think it's the only one with like hard information. So it's pretty relied on. But also, if you're claiming Snake Charmer while alive, that's a little interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely
claiming
not
that
a
you've-
role that you want out ever as being just on the risk of hitting the demon and suddenly playing. I do also think we should address maybe not bluffing having started as Snake Charmer, but bluffing that now you are the Snake Charmer. Which I've yet to see a minion do. And I'm gonna have to like put that in the back of my mind as just a reminder of just like, this could be interesting. But late game especially, saying, oh my god, I was Snake Charmed last night. Does it always work? No. Does it work some of the time? Yeah. Because especially if people have heard of a Snake Charmer, then there's always that possibility. You've entered into the great 50-50 of who is telling the truth and who's lying. But I do think I agree. It's kind of perfect because it allows you to sort of be cagey. Because of course the Snake Charmer is going to be cagey. Of course the Snake Charmer is going to maybe find themselves in a double bluff somewhere or things like that, as they try to locate a character that is both not in play and not a demon bluff. And so it lends itself, I think it lends itself actually pretty well. The other sort of thing that I like using Snake Charmer for, especially as a bluff, is if there's a pit hag, I'm going to let the pit hag know, hey, by the way, you have this out. If you think your demon is in trouble, you can always become a Snake Charmer and just jump.
Or turn somebody else into the Snake Charmer and not tell the demon.
Or turn someone else into the Snake Charmer and not tell the demon. You can absolutely play for the, what is it? Dress for the job you want, play for the team you want.
I also do think that you do have to consider for bluffing being Snake Charmed. That really helps get an evil twin victory sometimes. If you just claim that the good twin is the evil twin, if you get people believed, that's a win condition, baby.
Yeah,
you could absolutely get away with that.
That's definitely fair.
Or if people think you're lying, saying that the evil twin's the evil twin.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Evil twin's a victory. So you can go for it. There you go.
I realized I didn't cover the last two in terms of like good bluffing. And you know what? Clockmaker does deserve to be bumped up a little bit because I think Clockmaker is a great bluff for good. If you bluff to be expendable, even if you don't give your information out, you'll have to try to like find a way to stay off the block the first day, but you might very well be sort of ignored by evil as they try to, navigate this world, searching for the hard hitters, the savants, the oracles, etc. And instead, you are the savant or the oracle, and maybe you've heard of a clockmaker, or you just. But yeah, it's one of those, it's one of those double bluffs. Dreamer, just don't do it. It's a bad idea. Don't bluff Dreamer.
Yeah, no.
Good. Unless you're like very obviously trying to out yourself as like the mutant.
Yeah.
But selling a potential false, like if you don't make a guess, then you could, have people start believing that it's a Vortox game, or that you are no Dashii poisoned. Why a no Dashii poisoned dreamer would dream incorrectly night one, I have no idea. Very rough. But well, maybe if the setup is there for a Vortox. Snake Charmer, I think is also one of those things that like you can sort of hide behind if you get in your good graces with other people. A demon, I don't think is going to kill a Snake Charmer. I don't see why. The demon would love, in a way, to be Snake Charmed, because once you become Snake Charmed as the demon, you have much more knowledge than any sort of townsfolk, and now you're working with townsfolk. Those types of games tend to end very quickly, except for a particular game which involved Vigormortis that Guggie probably does not remember at all.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about in the slightest.
Definitely not a game that's going to be on YouTube, if it isn't already on YouTube.
It is already on YouTube.
It is already on YouTube.
Not that I would know, because
not that you would know, right? Because we've never seen it.
No.
But I do think it's one of the. You have to be careful how you use it, especially if there is an actual Snake Charmer out there. But it's one of the nicer roles to sort of like hide a good role within. That's good. Do we just we did B for Blockmaker, D for Dreamer. Do we do S for Snake Charmer? Or is it more?
You mean the Snake Charmer?
You think it's a B?
I don't know. Where do you, I really don't know where to put Snake Charmer, because it's like I could see it putting like anywhere.
Oh, I don't think it's a clear D or F tier.
Well, no, not D or F. Yeah.
I think it's like I would rather take Snake Charmer over Clockmaker.
Sure. I put Clockmaker on B. You can put Snake Charmer wherever you want.
All right, we'll do A. A works. Not quite. What is my S tier bluff on this? Maybe we'll find one.
I have a few.
Actually, this next one might be Mathematician.
This one might be. Okay, sure. I mean, I think that Mathematician of like all roles is one of the hardest to bluff while still being possible. Like it's not Dreamer hard. Dreamer is obviously harder. But like Mathematician is so easy to get numbers that just simply don't make sense in worlds that are being built. And just does, like even if you are in a Fang Gu game, so you think, oh, well, it's a Fang Gu game, there's no evil characters that are causing misinformation, there could still be a philosopher who's drinking and play a role. And if you don't know that, well, then your Mathematician numbers aren't going to make sense. If there's a sweetheart who dies, and because obviously it's a Fang Gu script, you might not know that. If people are, I mean, Mathematician's sort of like a no So if it is a no Dashii game, people start figuring it out, then if you're a mathematician with zeros, then you're probably going to get looked at really hard. But it still pushes like different worlds very easily. So if you can bluff it, I think it's one of the stronger ones, but I just don't think it's that easy of a bluff, even for like really good players to effectively pull off.
I think with math, you enter into the same, and we'll talk about this with the Savant coming up, where it's not necessarily that you need to be 100% accurate, but because of the way that math works, math doesn't detect drunkenness or poison. It detects the misfiring of abilities due to another player's abilities. So like, while you're right, a sweetheart could die and you could not know that it's happened, that doesn't necessarily mean your number is going to tick up. And so you do have to be, obviously, you can't give a math 8, except in some very interesting circumstances. Which will also
Can you do that on this?
Which will also be on YouTube.
Vortox.
Yes, that's the only case. But as long as you follow a sort of pattern in terms of like math numbers, you can definitely start selling that certain things have been going on. And obviously your demon bluffs can sort of lend credence to that. If you have a Philo bluff, like, go to town with, oh, well, okay, like, I got a 1 last night, and I've heard of a philosopher who went Savant. So, like, let's look at these, because you probably got, like, either 2 pieces of false information or 2 pieces of true, or something's going on. So I don't know. It's one of the... I don't think very often a mathematician gets looked at as a demon candidate. And I think it is a bluff that will carry you later into the game, but it is, as Guggie said, not dreamer hard, but it's hard in that you have to know, on Sects and Violets, math is the demon finder. Almost all of its ability helps to seek out and eke out what type of demon you are dealing with at any given time. In a Fang Gu, obviously, there's probably going to be a math 0. Actually, there is going to be a math 0, unless a philosopher specifically drunks with a target that specifically acts that first night, and that target specifically fails because they are drunk. So in this case, it's literally Philo Clockmaker, Philo Dreamer, or Philo Snake Charmer. And the Philo Snake Charmer, for the Philo Snake Charmer to ping, the Snake Charmer would have to select the demon night 1 while being Philosopher drunk. So it's possible. And Philo Dreamer is certainly a very powerful, it's one of the maybe better Philo abilities to go for. But it's not necessary. I could talk about math for a long time. Emma and Milk actually do a great job of discussing it on one of the episodes of their podcast. But it is, it's going to be tailored. You're going to have to tailor your information based on the script that you're in. And Sects and Violets does a pretty good job of not allowing for a super high level of variance in Mathematician, which makes it a little bit more easy of a potential bluff. But I do think this is actually, I think I'm happy with B here. Bluffing math is as good. I don't know that I would do it. It's certainly, if the demon is like a no Dashii or a Vigor, it might be helpful to get a Mathematician out of the way, because you don't want the good team knowing when powers begin to start misregistering. Math is a game, or math is a role that gains power not because you learn a number each night, but you build the story. You don't just look at tonight I got a 2. What did you get last night? What did you get the night before? Like, each of those like changes and increments is telling you something about the game state and where you are going. Yeah, I think B.
Yeah. I've got nothing more to add. You're too good.
B and better than Clockmaker.
Yeah. Mathematician.
Mathematician. On scent. Flower Girl.
So there's 2 types of Flower Girl in the game of Sects and Violets. The one where everyone votes every day and the Flower Girl is sad. Or the one where everyone respects the Flower Girl. Flower Girl gets 1 night of information, maybe, and then dies immediately because it's the Flower Girl. Honestly, if a Flower Girl makes it to like day 3, I'm immediately wanting to go for the Flower Girl because they should die as soon as possible. But if as a bluff, I think it's fine. I think the information is a little too direct, especially considering there's not a lot of, especially if you aren't poisoned, you should by like day 3 have only a certain amount of candidates in both a Vortox and a non-Vortox game, and probably by that point it's solved, and probably by that point at least one of the 2 of that is, I mean, not solved Vortox, but you know what I mean. Pretty sure. Maybe solved. Who knows? But by like a little bit into the game, you're only going to have a few suspects left as a Flower Girl. Some of them are going to be dead. And if none of them are the demon, well, you're going to start looking at the Flower Girl if you haven't already. So it's surprisingly, I don't think, one for longevity in a lot of cases. But like also like as a minion, just claiming Flower Girl and like being like, oh, it has to be one of these 3 people and having execution to that is really great. So it's fine. It's not like bluff I would want to ever take as a demon, but it's good to point fingers at people.
Yeah, I do definitely think it's a riskier bluff for a demon, but it is also a very powerful bluff in terms of just the information that it gives you. You don't have to worry about voting. You can vote as many times as you want. Obviously, there's if you are going to try to actually utilize the bluff and sell a world, especially because of that, you want to give it to a minion, because if anyone else is vote tracking, also vote track. If you are going to bluff Flower Girl, you need to be paying attention to votes, which is not something that we sort of always remember. And certainly I have had times where I was bluffing Flower Girl, bluffing Town Crier, where I literally realized that I had not really taken in or noted down who was actually voting or nominating or anything. But I do think I think it's more middling. As someone who has carried Flower Girl to Final 3 and won, I wouldn't say it's necessary that you have to die. Flower Girl is one of those roles that if you connect with the wrong person, yes, you're almost assuredly going to die relatively earlier, or you're going to be, pit hagged into something. Maybe you'll be witch cursed, but as a Flower Girl, I think I would probably just sort of lay low and not bother with things unless I literally had, the demon down to like 1 or 2 people. But it's not. I don't think that it's super suspicious for really any of these roles to end up in Final 3. The suspicion arises when you realize like who those people have been talking to, and who knows the secrets, and who knows. Because if I find a Clockmaker as a Flower Girl, and we just sort of like bond and trust, and the Clockmaker especially gets executed day one for a Vortox game. It's like, okay, you're getting all my information. You can spread Clockmaker, or you can spread that there is a flower girl. This was the voting. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think surviving for a long time is necessarily suspicious in Sects and Violets, even as a very powerful role. If you're blatantly outing yourself as Flower Girl, yeah, you probably should die very quickly. And if you don't, something's going on.
Yep. And I mean, you kind of do a lot of the times have to add as Flower Girl to be like, hey guys, there might be a Flower Girl in play. Watch your voting, lol, lamau. And it's like, okay, let me quickly mark you as the Flower Girl, because only the Flower Girl ever says that.
Note to self, I'm gonna have to start saying that more.
Yep, I agree.
It's fair. I've heard of a fortune teller ping. Really? Is that because you're just the fortune teller?
It's really it. Yeah. I trust people who say they've heard of a certain role as the role more than if they hard claim that role to my face.
I do, yeah. I think that is sort of my read. Where do you think? Oh, also, bluffing Flower Girl is good. Again, not a good idea. Actually,
yes.
I changed that. Great idea if you are some sort of spent role trying to hide a Flower Girl. If you're an artist who's used their ability, if you're a juggler who's already gotten the juggle, if you are, Sage, obviously. But the and the presence of Sage actually sort of does a good amount of maybe like drawing a demon away from immediately killing a Flower Girl, because Sage, like Ravenkeeper, is like mean. Sage is brutal on any script outside of a Vortox script, or yes, on any Grim outside of a Vortox game. And so I don't know. I'm inclined in those instances, absolutely bluff Flower Girl, bluff Savant, bluff any of the sort of power hitters. But also, sort of be wary if you're always bluffing Fortune Teller as the Ravenkeeper, you're gonna be red. If you're always bluffing Flower Girl as the Sage, you're gonna be red. So it's all in how you present the Flower Girl information. And of course, you have to be right, which can be tricky. It's great to get in a conversation as the Sage with the demon, but if you can't give Flower Girl information that substantiates a certain world, it's not going to get you killed.
Yeah.
Where are you thinking?
I think it's like C for a demon and A-ish for a minion, so I'm fine to put it in B.
I think I'm down with B.
Yeah.
I think you can do a lot, and it also again gives you the sort of ability to just like breathe and not have to worry about like, can I vote safely without exposing myself, or not vote safely without exposing myself in the case of a Vortox world. So speaking of voting, nominations are open for this role.
Wow. I mean, Town Crier's one of the roles on the script that's also just not looked at super much, just for suspicion. It's definitely a role that, first off, it's a role that can solve twins, which means that if you're bluffing it, you can solve, in heavy quotation marks, twins, which is again a win condition, and therefore means you can absolutely go for that win condition. So just for that alone, Town Crier is one of the best, if you can be believed on that. But also, Town Crier is a great like demon bluff if you just want to throw your minions under the bus and just be like, haha, got him, silly goose. You just, I think it's great. I like the information is not direct, unlike Flower Girl, because there's usually more than one minion. And if there is, one of them might be an evil twin, and evil twin things, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good bluff. I really have nothing to say about it. It's just great all around.
I think Flower Girl ending up in Final 3, rather suspicious. Town Crier ending up in Final 3, not as suspicious. And I covered this in a game that I ended up bluffing was an atheist game that I believe definitely has made its debut on. Actually, yeah, no, for sure it has. Because Howazy and I
think so.
went back to back. But where Math played in the Final 3, or after post game, was just like, why did you let me come to Final 3? And I was like, both of my minions were dead. Like, you're not getting any information. I don't care. Like, you can stick around as long as you want. If there is suspicion on you because you keep surviving each day, that's what I want as the demon at that point. And me knowing that literally everyone who was evil aside of myself was dead. Sure, like, okay, determine, get your no. So I agree. I think it's possible that, you know, if people start to believe that you've used your Town Crier status, quote unquote, to throw good people under the bus, then you sort of run the risk of being suspicious. But I do think that a Town Crier surviving, it's also not a priority kill for a demon.
Yep.
It sucks losing minions. Sometimes it has to happen. And as long as you're alive at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Even in like a Twins game, like it's not a big deal. There's so many other variables that could be happening. The Town Crier could be, you know, Dashii poisoned. The Town Crier could be Vortoxed. Like, so does the Town Crier actually have information that solves your twins? You'll know, but can you, like, Twins is even just like basically a stall game. Like, it's, you want to have the game last as long as possible before Town is just forced to make what is potentially a hard decision, and you just want to make it as hard as possible decision. Bluffing Town Crier is good. Again, not a priority demon target, so it's not bad. But if you're trying to like arouse suspicion or get targeted, unless there is a twin, in which case maybe, yeah, I say, don't worry guys, I'm Town Crier, like, we'll take care of this twin thing tonight. Basically forcing the demon to do something, or the minions to do something. Maybe I get targeted by Cerenovus to try to block that information. Maybe I get pit hagged into something, which also may be fine. But I don't think it's a so for longevity, it's probably better. Like, if I am Flower Girl, I might bluff Town Crier. Like, I am something who is like considering nominations and considering voting, and like that's important. So like it doesn't look suspicious. But yeah, no, I'm just the Town Crier. I'm not determining whether or not a demon is voting.
I will point out, if you're a Flower Girl bluffing Town Crier, you have to pay attention to both votes and nominations. So you do have to be ready for that.
Yep. I think it's definitely, I think I'm happy with a B here too, but a higher B than probably the other B entries so far.
I was gonna
Maybe
say
A.
like A.
You think A? I'm happy with A.
A. Yeah.
Is it better than Snake Charmer or worse than Snake Charmer?
I think it's probably better, just because like I would always be down to take Town Crier. I think that's just a solid, like, I have nothing better to bluff. I'm just gonna bluff Town Crier.
Yeah.
And then Snake Charmer, yeah.
I think you're correct. So do you see what I see?
So for the Savant, no, I'm kidding. Savant, now I'm actually thinking I said Savant. So for the Oracle,
don't worry about the Savant. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Every single pun you make is making me more and more regret the idea of us doing this. I hope you know that. Oracle, I think, is great. I think, like Town Crier, it's sort of information that's not... Like, you can absolutely go throughout a very long period of time as the Oracle. You're not providing information that's going to get you killed by the demon immediately, unless maybe you're the demon is a Fang Gu or a Vigormortis. But like, it's sort of just middling information, and for that, it is a great bluff because you can just do whatever you want, and sure, that makes sense. I think bluffing Oracle, you just have to tell the town exactly what they want to hear. Do they think that the artist was a minion? Great, the artist was a minion and we executed them. And bam, I got a 1. Guess they were a minion. Do they think that your minion was a minion? Bam, they're a minion. That's a 2, baby.
Yep.
Do they think it was a Fang Gu jump? Bam, 3. Probably shouldn't get any higher than that, but sure.
Do they think it's a Vortox game? A, look at that. My information's wrong.
With a 1, yeah.
It's fine, guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you, honestly, as the Oracle, if you tell the town exactly what they want to hear, you're not going to get looked at.
Yeah.
And even if you tell them, like, information that seems false, they're going to start building worlds where your information is true, because obviously the demon's going to tell you information you want to hear.
Right.
So if there's, even if there was a Fang Gu jump in your minion, you could still absolutely give a 1 to be like, oh well, they're clearly like a Vigormortis kill minion or something like that. Or you could give a 0 and give them credence. I think Oracle is just one of the best bluffs on Sects and Violets, frankly.
I also think it's definitely very powerful. I would argue that it's very demon dependent. A Vigor or a Fang Gu, Oracle is a pretty high priority target. You do not in any way want good to know that there is, like, that you are in play. If you jump as a Fang Gu, you want to do it as stealthily as possible, and so finding the Oracle that's probably going to be in town if you're in play. Maybe not always, depending on the size, but Oracle is very powerful for that regard. It's all about, in Sects and Violets, piecing together the larger, like, scene and taking all these, like, puzzle pieces from everywhere and combining them to find, like, oh, that's the demon, got it. And so Oracle does a great job of helping with that, but there's a number of things you can rely on. And I think it's, like, in terms of, like, Town Crier versus Oracle, I'm much more inclined to, like, believe that a Town Crier isn't dying than believe that an Oracle isn't dying. But maybe that's just me. I think Oracle is very powerful information, especially on a script where there's, you know, a couple of demons that you can sort of nail down whether or not there's whether or not they're in play, or whether or not, you know, the Vigormortis killed the evil twin last night, and therefore the good twin's power is actually still active. So I don't know. I don't think it's quite as good for evil as Town Crier, but I think it's fine. And I definitely think it's up there, especially as a minion, because I think it is one of those roles that, similar to Flower Girl, is going to start getting looked at with a little bit of suspicion if it's not dying, especially later on in the game. If you're an Oracle in Final 3 and you're saying you have a 2, it's possible, and if you've made it that far, like, that's huge. But you are specifically at that point selling a world where it's like, I am not the only good, and there's another good person here. So all we have to do is find out the demon, and so it's you're trying to create a 50-50 that doesn't include you. And it might work, but it's I don't know, it's very... I would be concerned. Either that, or you're pushing a Vortox world where your actual number is a 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you think A.
I actually, I think I had this in S, and then as you were talking, I moved it slightly down to A.
Okay.
Because I just love Oracle as a bluff, but I think A is where I want to put it.
I'm happy with A. I think it is a very good bluff. It's also one of the ones that you might be able to get away with for if you want to just sort of last till mid game as good.
Yep.
Because unless the demon is specifically a Fang Gu or a Vigor, you're probably not high priority. You probably will be later. Or if the demon is a Vortox, maybe, actually. Honestly, yeah. Three of the demons kind of want you out of the way. Well, maybe 2. Vortox and Vigor. Fang Gu can sort of
Fang
like...
Gu and Vigor. Oh,
No, Vortox and Vigor, because you can relatively easily sort of solidify a Vortox world, or the possibility of a Vortox. If you get a 1 your first night, it's likely Vortox and Vigor. It could be Fang Gu, but Fang Gu is fine to jump a little bit later, whereas usually as a Vigormortis, you want to eliminate the possibility that one of your better minions can be killed and therefore not have its power going on anymore. And you want to get that poison out there as soon as you can.
Yeah, but also there's like how many roles in the script that can hard solve Vortox? I think that Oracle's not really.
Yeah, you're right.
For Vortox. I think if it's a Vortox game, and at the end of the game you do not know it is a Vortox, the evil team's done a great job.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, honestly. But I think that I also think that, like, if you are the Fang Gu and you jump like mid game and the Oracle detects it and calls it out, the Outsiders are probably bluffing anyway. So it's not the end of the world.
True. Yeah.
And same with Vig, but a little bit less because poison's detected.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it. A. A for Oracle.
A for Oracle. Will you talk about this next one?
You already made that joke. I'm sure you're gonna cut the other part of that out, and also this where I'm explaining that. But I'm calling you out personally.
Both of these
Savant,
are
I
staying in.
think.
What are you talking about?
Oh, what are you talking about? Savant is an interesting bluff because it's just so interesting and it has so much interesting going on. The problems I have with a Savant, which there are more than one, which is interesting, is the Savant visits the storyteller every day, which makes it easily detectable if the demon is paying attention, or if somebody's bluffing Savant, which people should be bluffing Savant by talking to the storyteller. People should just talk to the storyteller more, period. This is a PSA to everyone. Talk to your storytellers. They're people too, and you should talk to them. Tell them about your day. And if you cut this out, you're a coward, Etreides.
No, I'm a big supporter of normalized talking to the storyteller during the day. I really heavily despise the meta where people think, oh, that person spoke with the storyteller or drew them aside, so there's obviously suspicion there. No, just normalize talking to your storyteller and having your storyteller give you answers to questions or rules clarifications or whatever it is. I'm a big about. I've covered this, I think, a little bit, or we covered this in I think it was the BMR video, but I really don't like people trying to meta things in this game. Don't just play the game. Don't try to eke the truth out based on some sort of meta read. I guess you can if winning is sort of the thing, but if the purpose of the game is to sort of come together and collectively have a fun group experience by attempting to gaslight each other, rely on your storyteller to have done a good job of giving good enough pieces of the puzzle to solve it, and giving evil enough pieces of obfuscation to deal with and work with, and have fun with that. Don't meta based on who's talking with whom, or even what people claim as. It's just boring. I don't know.
Unless they claim minstrel. But anyway.
Unless they claim minstrel. Fair. You're not wrong.
Yep. So yeah, that's... I didn't even know if I finished that thought, but we're going to pretend I did. The other thing is Savant, like Flower Girl, is a lot of information, and it's very easy for you to accidentally give two true statements that people figure out is almost certainly the case, and then one of those statements could be false, or the Savant could be lying. And a lot of the times, especially if a Savant goes far into the game, people are going to point at the Savant and be like, I don't think that the Savant's telling the truth, not gonna lie. So it's not really one you're gonna get far with and have information that backs up every single night. Along with that, especially I will say, especially in a Vortox game, the second there's a statement you said that is plausibly true,
yep,
you're just not. It's just you just don't have Vortox information about, and you have to do that twice a day.
Yeah. And it has to be convincing. That I think is the other thing, is bluffing Savant it's powerful. If you're playing a live game, don't do it. Oh God, it's so horrible. But it's it has to be Savant information when properly given by storytellers, at least in my mind, is one points to a true world, one points to a false world. It's all about narrowing down and trying to give good the tools necessary, while also, the false statement helping to suggest that, okay, maybe this other world, like you're sort of dividing the world into a 50-50 for good, and relying on good to use all of the other information that they have to solve which world you are telling them is possible, is the actual one. And so if it's very vague, or sort of like traditional, like and I've also stepped away. Also, if you are bluffing Savant, normalize talking with your storyteller about how they would phrase things, because crucial. But yeah, it's definitely one of the more especially if you know it's a Vortox, or if you are the Vortox and you don't have a pit hag, so you can't like do some fun things with like change of demon shenanigans. It's hard. I will say this, I've already created a new slot on the tier list above S, and that is, of course, the Kaza Okami slot.
Yes.
So we're just going to put it right up there. Shout out to Kaza. Love you, buddy.
Hi, Kaza.
Hi, Kaza. But I do think for all players aside of Kaza Okami, it's probably A, maybe B. I don't think it's S as in Savant. I think it's very nice to know that there's not a Savant in play, but that also does lend itself open to a Philo just Philoing Savant. However, if you find a Philo that Philoed into Savant and you are the Savant, hey, look at that. Suddenly there's a reason that your information doesn't really make all that much sense, and it's okay, and you should probably just kill the Philo so you can start getting some actual good Savant information. Come on, guys.
Of course. Yeah, I'm leaning towards B just because I think it's A if you can pull it off, but it's very easy to not pull it off correctly.
I think that's
if you want to go A, then I'm fine with that.
I'm down with B. He is pretty good.
Sure.
I don't know how to. Can I duplicate images?
So what you should do is put Kaza Okami between A and B. Yep. Because I think that's around where Savant should go. I'm down to put like between A and B.
Okay.
Actually, put it under F because that'll spike Kaza.
Oh, come on. Let's cut to the chase with this one.
So, I've said what my favorite bluff is on 2 scripts now, and we're on the 3rd base script. And I think Seamstress might be. I love a lot of the bluffs on this script, but Seamstress might be my favorite just because it's absolutely like well-rounded. You can do a surprising amount of it, of stuff with it for once per game. You can just throw sus on 2 people. You can quote-unquote solve the twins.
Yep.
And you can just hold on to it for a few days just to see if there's somebody you absolutely trust to test somebody against them. You can do it against 2 people who you quote-unquote don't trust. Seamstress is absolutely, I think, probably one of my favorite roles in the game, and especially one of my favorite bluffs, just because it's got a lot of versatility for a once per game, notably.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the empath bluff if it just gets to pick its neighbors, which I would love to do in this day and age, but unfortunately housing prices are just too much. I love it. I have absolutely nothing bad to say about the Seamstress bluff, except maybe if you use it in the first 2 days, you might just get Vortox killed. But I think that there's probably other people who would die before you anyway. So,
I think that's the only sort of risk. especially if you go for like Seamstress who used ability night 1, expect to be like put up on the block or suggested as such. But otherwise I agree. I think you can do a lot with a well-placed Seamstress ping. Even if that's, a yes and town comes out to it being a Vortox world. Okay, well then it's a no. And suddenly at least one of those people is sort of under fire. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's not something... I don't know that I'd necessarily take it on as a demon. I do think it's pretty good as a minion, just because it's, there's a little bit of an expendability to it. But if you can solve and sort of prove, especially if it isn't a Vortox game, then suddenly it's not crucial that you be executed or put on the block. Yeah.
Yeah. I have nothing bad to say about it. It's just so good. Great.
Is this your S?
This is one of my S's, yes.
I think I'm happy to put it up here. I think it's definitely better than Clockmaker for minions, because again, it's a single use, but you get to choose when that's happening, and like there's reasons to not use your ability as a Seamstress. It is a little bit risk reward, but there's also the alternative that you can see this in a video on the channel, that you bluff Seamstress, get Vigor killed, and then claim, oh darn it, I didn't get to use my ability, shucky darn. But which is also powerful, because like, town's information being limited, like it can happen. It can suck. The Juggler can get killed night 2. The Seamstress can get killed night 2, and there's nothing you can do about it. But in the vast majority of cases, you're probably safe to last a few nights without it, and it's not going to be the most suspicious of things. If you try to claim, yeah, I'm the Seamstress in the final 3, and I just used my ability last night, that's maybe a little suspicious. Possible. It's definitely possible. But holy hell, like, you might as well bluff Slayer with a Slayer shot in final 3. Who just fired at that person, so that person can't be the demon because they didn't die, so it's the other one. Yeah, I think it's a solid one.
As somebody who always sort of tries to do either of those, how dare you? Yeah.
Well,
maybe not final 3, but yeah.
Why don't you pipe up about this next roll?
Every time we do one of these, I die a little bit more inside. I mean, Philosopher is, you get to bluff something else, basically. And if that roll is in play, well, you're not in a double claim, and also they're drunk. There's not much to say about the Philosopher itself, because you're bluffing something else usually. Mm-hmm. You're the Philosopher with that other bluff's ability. So I don't think that you're gonna get believed too much if you bluff something like Philosopher Sweetheart or something like that. But as long as you, like, Philosopher is slightly better than the bluff that you are saying that you philosophized into, because if it's in play, congrats, they're quote unquote drunk. So yeah. I love Philosopher too. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think Philo is a very easy one. There's a lot that you can do with it in terms of making other people doubt their information. It also just lets you know that there's not this very powerful townsfolk in play. It does mean you'll have to solve things, but it also, if you if you claim Philo Dreamer or Philo Savant, like chances are the actual Savant or the actual Dreamer will out to you, because you've got to solve this ability, and this information. In that note, I don't know whether or not I like it as a demon. It's definitely, I think, one of the... Yeah, actually, I don't know. I don't know that I think it's a great minion bluff. As a demon, it's not the highest of risks, but if there is actually a philosopher, there should be a little bit of an expendability to them, especially if there is a savant or there is a dreamer, because that can help narrow down like what information town might be missing on. But no, all in all, great, like just absolutely great bluff. As good, I don't know that I would necessarily bluff Philo. Maybe if I wanted to, draw the ire of a demon by claiming, oh yeah, I'm the Philo Savant or I'm the Philo Dreamer. One of those, any of the powerhouse roles, really. And then, of course, secretly, I'm the Philo Sage. That's fun. I don't agree with Philo Sage, but
yeah,
I'll go on the record. I don't. There's so many better choices. Don't worry about trying to get lucky. But that's the only real reason I'd bluff it as good. And if people started, if I met a dreamer and I was bluffing as the Philo Dreamer, like I'd very quickly back down and make sure they knew that like their information was, if it is wrong, it's not because of me. It's because there's a demon or they're poisoned or something. I'm guessing also S.
I mean, yeah, like Philosopher is just.
I agree.
Like you can bluff anything, and
Yeah.
so therefore S,
Yeah.
I think, is the only answer. Good job.
Well, there's as the old saying goes, different strokes for different folks. So
I do like getting stroked. So the artist also falls into the Clockmaker category of they are probably going to be dying early because like there's a lot of the times not a good reason to not use your artist question in the first like 1 or 2 days. But that being said, the information from the artist is very powerful. You can do a lot with the artist. You can solve Vortox game immediately, which I don't like. Don't do it. There's plenty of other roles that can do that. You can just do like from X to Y as the demon. Which is I also am not a huge fan of, but it's very strong and can absolutely push worlds that are incorrect. Or you can do whatever. It's great. Artist is great. But you're also probably going to die early because you're the artist.
Yep.
And there's not really a lot of reasons to wait more than a day to use your artist question. There's plenty of reasons to not use your Seamstress info immediately because like Twins is on the script. You might want to find somebody you trust first. Artist, just ask a question. Just do it. Do it. Ask a question. Have fun. Then die.
But don't use your question simply to solve for a Vortox. You'll solve for a Vortox. It'll eventually happen. Even if it's not one roll solving for Vortox, it's about all of you. And so it's much more important to like determine a question where if you solve for Vortox and it is Vortox, or if you solve for Vortox and it's not Vortox, you're still gaining something more out of just what singular demon is in play at the time that you ask the question. Because if there's a pit hag, there's a possibility that it'll end up not being a Vortox game, and then you've used your once per game ability to essentially do nothing. Except maybe like prove that there's a pit hag in play, but even there. Yeah, I agree. I think pretty solid B, but definitely far more expendable than a Seamstress. Also because an artist can be on the block and immediately use their power because it's daytime. Seamstress doesn't have that luxury. Seamstress has to use their ability during the night, which means you have the additional advantage as a Seamstress of being like, I haven't used my ability yet. I can do it tonight. Like, as a, maybe last ditch effort. Hopefully you're not the demon in that case, or you have, twins or a pit hag or something that can help you. But yeah, I agree. I think solid B, not much higher.
B for Bardist.
B for Bardist. Juggle, toil and trouble.
So, I actually, when I was talking about Seamstress, I said Seamstress is probably my favorite bluff on S&V. That's because I think Juggler is very close second for me. There's also a lot you can do with Juggler. And honestly, going around claiming Juggler just day one, trying to see, like, people are probably going to be a little bit more honest with you a lot of the times, or at least more direct if they're lying or not afterwards, which does help with, the murder part of the game.
Sure.
But also, it's very easy for, like, one of the 5 people you said to just be evil who is bluffing if your numbers went off. Or if you have too many, then it's clearly a Vortox game. Or the person who died next to me last night, which I definitely didn't plan because I'm definitely not the demon, was probably Vigormortis killed, and therefore we should be going after the Barber. Definitely not so that I can swap. I think that it's another thing that you can do a whole lot with, both confirming people and pointing fingers at people very, very easily. And especially if you juggle like 5 people, it's hard for any one of them to say, well, you shouldn't have got that number because I'm not that thing. Because as long as you give, if you juggle 5 people and you get a 3, well, that's one of the 2 ones that you got wrong.
Right.
So you're still good.
Right.
Again, it sort of falls into the thing of early you could die for Vortox reasons.
Yep.
Not day 1, of course. Yep. And like by day 2, there's usually 1 or 2 evil pings out there.
Yep.
So I think it's another one that's just excels more as minion, but also I think I've bluffed Juggler as the demon a few times and won. So
I think it's
I think one of them's on YouTube. Is the Vortox script with the Stormcop Monk on YouTube? Because I know I did that.
It's coming very close, so okay. it will have debuted by the time.
I mean, we're doing this live, so of course it's out by now.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think that if you can give plausible like juggler information, one of the like day one is always the sort of hard Vortox check, as it were, where there's not a lot of information to go on. And so you're looking for like the artist, maybe the seamstress who used their ability first night as a means of, sort of a quick like saving grace in case it is a Vortox world. But if you can survive the first night and juggle appropriately, and in a feasible way, suddenly it's less about, you move on to sort of the phase where even in a Vortox world, you're focused on like finding demon candidates. And if you seem to like pretty solidly be a juggler, well, we don't need to execute you just because you're expended. We need to find the people who are disseminating information that doesn't line up with a Vortox world. So yeah, it's Sects and Violets has this sort of weird mode to it where the first day is always, in a way, like sort of the most tense in terms of executions, because you absolutely have to execute someone just in case, unless someone, has come to you claiming that, oh no, it's based on my information, it's definitely not Vortox, which you should always be a little bit sussy of, especially if you're the demon. Because if you're the demon and it's not a Vortox game, then that's probably, I don't know, Dreamer? Kill him now. But yeah, I can see Juggler lasting a good long while if they juggle correctly, and it's a lot less suspicious, or they can be a lot less suspicious than a Seamstress on day 4 still alive who hasn't used their ability. Juggle is just sort of those one and done things. Also, you don't need, I know this has been said before for gossip on BMR, if you're playing Sects and Violets, you don't need to go around and get other people to juggle. They will juggle with you. It's all good. Once you come out, they will cover for you. Juggler is a powerful role for that reason. And yep. Is this your third S? Or is this
for me, I think this is my third S. This is the easiest one of these that you can convince me to put in A. But personally, for me, it's an S. I love so many bluffs on this script. It's great.
I like. I'll do low S. Why not? Let's add more S's for Sects and Violets.
It's the Juggler.
I don't know. Something. Would you light my candle? Rent callback, baby.
Wow. Great. I mean, I don't see it enough, but I think this is a great bluff for like a Fang Gu who just jumped, or a Vigormortis kill minion, to just be like, great. Let me, while I'm getting the benefit from the ability of the demon, also point my fingers directly at 2 people. And if people believe me in any sense of the word, those 2 will probably be the next 2 to die. Unless it doesn't make sense with information, but
yeah,
nothing makes sense with information. And then, like, if not, oh well. Like, I think, like, it's like a Sage like Ravenkeeper is honestly a better bluff if you're planning on dying, rather than oh, I'm a Sage in Final 3 and I never died.
Yep.
Whoops. Sage also is like Snake Charmer, one you can sort of back into if you're bluffing one of the more powerful roles, like Flower Girl or Savant, or even like Juggler, because I think Juggler's a great Sage bluff.
Yeah.
Just because it's better earlier.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but like afterwards, like I mean, sages are just like inherently suspicious because of their ability if they aren't dying. So I think it's definitely fine, but you have to it's a big risk bluffing sage and making it anywhere far in the game, I think.
Yep. Absolutely agreed. I think it is one of the ones people harp on, like Ravenkeeper surviving till final 3, and honestly, like if you are in any way possibly the sage, you're probably not going to get killed unless it's specifically a Vortox game. And even then, that's still, like, in a Vortox game, you are essentially a knight at that point. You're just confirming that two people are not the demon. So I think it's definitely a fine bluff, even if you survive the entirety. But it does lend itself well to, like, minion, especially in a Vigor game, because you have two pieces of sort of interaction, or ways that you are interacting with obfuscating the world. And as you said, yeah, I don't know, it's good. And I'm less inclined to sort of look upon a sage in Final 3 with suspicion for some reason, just because it is so powerful that it's definitely possible that, you know, like evil caught wind that this person was the sage and didn't kill them. And of course they're going to make them try to look suspicious by, you know, being the sage and not dying. But not dying in this game is not necessarily itself suspicious. It's gonna happen to a couple of people.
You mean not everyone dies? What do we even play this game for?
Not everyone dies.
I want to kill everyone.
Where do you think? B?
I think B.
A? Yeah.
You could make an argument for A, but I think you can make an argument for other things in B before you can make an argument for Sage.
I think Sage is a perfectly fine bluff. It's nice to have as a demon also for, you know, the information it gives you, knowing that you can just kill and not have to worry about there being a sage out there. And that also works really well if people start claiming to be the sage, because you know they're not, and there's probably a reason that they are claiming sage. And maybe that should be your target. But yeah.
Hey, you know a role that might claim Sage?
It's
the Mutant. Whoa, I'm doing the introduction to steal it from you.
Wow.
Haha.
Wow.
You can do one, because I know you're gonna cut that out.
But you're no longer a teenager, so how can you do the Mutant?
Rude.
Heroes in a half shell.
Yeah, I understand the reference because I was around. Was I around that time? I don't know. I think I'm.
There's
that would have been
so
90s.
many iterations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's true.
Yes,
they just did a movie this year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh. People need to make new things.
Yeah.
I think Mutant is a very fun bluff. And that's about where my good things stop.
Yep.
I do think it's being the Cerenovus, making yourself mad day one, and then specifically breaking it and then being like, yeah, I was the Mutant, I didn't want to get Fang Gu jumped to. I think that's pretty strong because A, the other outsiders are going to be like, well, if there is a Fang Gu, that's one less person that they could jump to. So I guess I'm staying quiet for a little bit longer. And B, a lot of people aren't going to throw suspicions on that. So people just might tell you the truth just because what Cerenovus in their right mind would do that? Also, Oracle might start throwing Vortox questions around, but I think that's about the end of the good things I have to say about this. It's fine. Like, if you're a Vigormortis killed minion, like, coming out as mutant, if you've been a double claim coming out as mutant, it's fine. But, like, I think there's much better things to do, and a lot of the times mutant is going to be dropping hints that they're the mutant much more than, like, a snake charmer or a sage would.
Yeah. I think
it's very fun, though.
I think it can help, if there is the case where you're at base 2 outsiders and you receive mutant as a bluff, and you are the Fang Gu, knowing which specific outsider is out of play is also helpful. It means you can throw suspicion on one of the other outsiders, and maybe even, like, last a little bit longer. But I agree, outside of some very niche plays with the Cerenovus, it's, or just, like, trying to honestly rely on the fact that it won't seem suspicious if you're in a double claim with anyone. You're claiming any other role out there. Oh, it's like, okay, you're probably just the mutant, or maybe you're Cerenovus mad. It lends itself very well to sort of covering for you obviously not being the thing that you are claiming to be. But also, it's very likely that you're probably going to get killed, and so you have to be expendable. I don't think I'd ever take this as a demon. Nor would I bluff it as good. There's the possibility that you can sort of lean into if you are double bluffing someone for some reason. Lean into the idea that you might just be the mutant. But it's less something that you would probably want to assert, and more something that you just sort of want to happily fall into as people say, oh no, like, Guggie's probably just a mutant. That's why he's claiming Savant, and that's why Etreides is claiming Savant. Everything's fine.
But I'm not the mutant.
I know, you're the evil twin in that scenario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the Cerenovus play. Like, I think that would also do a great job of hiding what minions are in play, which is a sort of essential part of everything. But yeah. CB.
It's definitely not D. It's definitely, I don't think it's up with B, so I think C is the only really.
I think C is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Guggie, I didn't know you were on this script.
I'm the Klutz. No, I'm kidding. As we all know, I am a pit hag in real life. But anyway,
not wrong.
Again, claiming outsiders to have the outsiders lie for a bit longer because Fang Gu potential is already very strong. I think Sweetheart's probably the best outsider bluff in a Vigormortis game to help stop Vigormortis, especially if Vigormortis killed minion takes it. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm a Sweetheart, somebody's drunk now. And then if the math numbers start giving higher numbers, well, obviously that's not Vigor poisoning. That's me being the Sweetheart. Or if the Oracle gets a 1, well, that's not Vigormortis, me. That's the Sweetheart being me, drunking you to frame me.
Right.
Again, it's also nice, as a demon later in the game, if you're, if the outsider camp would make sense for it. So basically just Vigormortis. You'd be like, I'm the Sweetheart. For all of the outsiders that aren't mutant, really, I'm the Sweetheart. I don't think it's a Fang Gu game. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then people are less inclined to kill you because then somebody's going to be drunk from then on.
Yep.
Otherwise, I think it's fine. It's perfectly fine. I think this is probably my favorite of the 4 outsiders to bluff, but
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think bluffing outsider, the worst. Sweetheart is definitely the worst outsider to sort of kill into as town. Barber, not a big deal, especially if it's done early. Klutz, not a big deal, especially if it's done early. But Sweetheart, like, drunking someone is brutal in a game that's so heavily reliant on information as SMV. And so there's definitely a claim of Sweetheart is definitely going to be met with a little bit of aversion. Yeah, I agree. I think this is the most, like, as a demon, as a minion, either can work here. As a minion with a vigor, you can, claim to be the Sweetheart, and suddenly, if people solve that, the person near you is getting misinformation, it's like, oh no, I'm just the Sweetheart. Like, that's why. You're drunk. Great, that's fine. The storyteller is just trying to push a vigor game by making that the selection. That's all that's going on. There's a lot that you can do with it. Solid B, or do we think A?
I think A, because I want to put the other 2 in B, frankly. I'm just going to say that now.
Honestly, that's fair.
Sure.
I'm not even sure I agree with B for the other 2. Maybe low B.
Yeah, I think so.
The problem that I have with these particular... the problems that I have are twofold for Barber and Klutz. One, Vortox. So you want to execute people. And 2, the earlier that a Barber dies, usually the better. The only real way that a demon can, like, slightly disrupt the plan to get rid of the Barber swap is to swap the Barber with another player. And at that point, you are creating this confirmation chain that you really don't want to do much more of as evil. Barber, obviously, great to somehow have around until, like, later on, and at which point you kill the Barber and suddenly you're at a 50-50. Was there a Barber swap last night, or did nothing actually happen? And then same for Klutz. Like, with Klutz, if you get executed day 1, you have, in a 12-player game, let's say, you have a 7 of 10 chance. No, I had it right. 8 of 11 chance to have nothing happen. And at that point, you've also confirmed somebody as definitively good, meaning the demon has to go after them. So if you, like, force a demon especially to have to kill into a Clockmaker or a confirmed artist, or hell, even a mutant, in a non-Fang Gu world, that's incredibly powerful. So I don't know. That's I'm more inclined for a C for both of these. I don't think that I don't know. I don't think either of them really. Maybe low B. I could see low B for either, but these read as even more expendable to just on the basis of sort of how SNV is. And, like, a Clockmaker day 1 execution, yeah, but Barber day 1, probably even better. Especially since in a Fang Gu world, you do want to cut down on those. There's not really much of a reason in Trouble Brewing. and to a certain extent BMR, you can sort of confirm outsiders by outsider count, and therefore you have these people who it's like, no, you make sense, so you clearly must be this. Because of the possibility of Fang Gu, because of the possibility of Vigor, there's so much more wild variation. And this is why I think Sweetheart is very deserving of A. Like it's the outsider that just like it's a real detriment. Like it's just a really bad detriment early on. And so maybe it won't take you to Final 3, but it'll definitely take you pretty far into the game. And even if it does take you to Final 3, there's unless you've been like blatant and outed as the Sweetheart, in which case the demon probably wants to kill you to sow that drunkenness. It's not going to be that unbelievable. Whereas, a Barber or a Klutz lasting till Final 3, like, what are you doing, Klutz? Die. Please die, Klutz. We need to solve you. Find a good person and point at them. Just... yeah, I don't know.
I will say I think that I'm fine with like Klutzency, but I think like any evil claiming Barber who's dying mid-game is going to throw a big wrench in like stuff like Flower Girl and Town Crier information.
I think that's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Barber I would consider more as a bluff that like you utilize for the purpose of generating that like 50-50 of just like, well, like I guess the demon and minion might have swapped last night. Who knows, guys? Maybe the evil twin is actually just the demon. Or actually, no, that wouldn't work.
The evil twin could swap with the good twin, though.
But the evil twin could swap with the good twin, and that is one of my favorite things to do as a demon who gets a Barber choice. Here, have fun. let my evil twin get all of the information. Speaking of, I mean, I do like the sort of world building aspect as we look at minions and demons. The most fun one, bluffing that there's an evil twin in the game.
So the only problem I have with bluffing other minions is that in a lot of cases, if you are a minion and you're not, the minion in question is not obviously in play by like day 3.
Yep.
That minion's just not doing a good job. Not gonna lie. If there's no witch deaths, not doing a good job. You've just whiffed a lot of the time.
Yep.
Pitag could be chaining other minions or changing Fang Gu around, but like it shouldn't be hidden for a while. And Cerenovus, I guess you could Ceralock someone, but if it's a one minion game or something and there's an evil twin pair around and somebody's Ceramad, I think the Ceramad player might come out to point fingers at the evil twin pair. I think, like, so bluffing any of the minions I think is not great. I think bluffing evil twin is fun, but like, especially if you're doing it with a good player who's not going to say anything good about it, then I mean then you die first and then they die and then that's the end of that. So
yeah. I think I haven't seen it executed beautifully, and it's also hard because you want there to be I think ideally on this script, I think the pair I would want would be a Cerenovus and a Pit Hag, and the Cerenovus has somehow made themselves mad or hidden that there is a Cerenovus in the game, and the Pit Hag would also have to be sort of stealthy, just to sort of finagle things and mess around with town while you bluff being the evil twin to one of them. And like basically keep you both alive in a weird way, because eventually they're going to kill into you. And so the other thing that this is rather dangerous to undertake is the best evil twin bluffing pair are the two minions. But you won't know what roles are definitively not in play until you speak with your demon. And usually twins, I think we're stepping a little bit away from the meta, and I'm glad that we're stepping a little bit away from the meta where twins need to like out immediately what's going on in order to have any sort of credence. But usually the twins will make themselves known relatively early, because as good, that is what you want to do. And as the evil twin, you want to appear as good as possible. And like not outing that you're a twin is limiting Town in the information that it has to solve the game. So C for Cevil twins.
I have it in. I could see C. I'm thinking D, but I could see it in C, so I'm fine with that.
Okay. I'm fine. I'm also fine with D, honestly. For Devil twins.
Devil twins. And I've successfully convinced myself to put it back in D.
Okay, great. Perfect. Which?
No. F.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, you cannot bluff witch being in... Like, you can bluff that people aren't nominating enough, and so maybe there's a witch, but like, eh. That's it. There you go. I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, no, I don't either. The witch is the loudest of all the minions on the script. You can try to sell a world where like you just got the witch early. That's about all you can do if you are really having trouble sort of discerning. But like there being, and I've definitely seen games actually with a witch where the witch just misses every single time. At a certain point, sometimes that happens. But there's, you know, if Tinker were on the script, sure. Maybe your storyteller will throw you a bone by killing the Tinker when they nominate. But Tinker isn't on the script, so nope, nothing you can do. Just don't.
Nope.
Don't. If you are bluffing that one of the minions was a witch, you are bluffing this later in the game when you're trying to suggest that someone was the witch and was successfully executed and didn't actually use their power effectively. That's about all you
And then you might as well say Cerenovus or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking about Cerenovus.
If you're gonna bluff a minion, I think this is the one to do it. Like if you're in a double claim for a few days and then be like, oh, well, I'm Cerenovus mad. Yep. That's why. And the Cerenovus just died. Or moved targets or something. Again, like the other three minions are sort of obvious, so doing this does require you to like sync a minion ability. Or be the Cerenovus and hope that the person you've been Cerenovusing for the last few days doesn't out, because then whoopsie, you kind of screwed there, buddy.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's fine little. It's a nice thing to insinuate while you're in a double claim, but like outwardly saying it's not gonna get you far.
Yeah, I think later on as well, you might bluff a Cerenovus being in play because Town just executed the Cerenovus, and fortunately, if the Cerenovus has been using their ability not just to lock down one individual person, if they've been bouncing it around, then it might actually make sense for you to still be mad and the Cerenovus to, be in the game. It's a little bit risky because if people think that you're bluffing, then, they're going to obviously throw immediate suspicion on you and probably hang you that day. But if there's the possibility that, a couple of people are potentially evil and specifically the Cerenovus, then again, context given, throwing that world out there that you are mad also, to a certain extent, helps you look good. Normalize Cerenovusing your demon. Or don't. Yeah. But it's, you don't have to, like, lock your demon down. But it's, once you've gotten, like, bluffs and understand the type of game it is, throwing madness onto your evil team is... I shouldn't say is, but can be very huge. If you are only ever using your powers on good people, then you are, in a weird sort of way, confirming them. And one of the things you need to be very careful about in Sects and Violets is these hard confirmations by virtue of being affected by a power or being privy to certain information.
And also, don't make me mad, because if you make me mad, I'm somehow going to be less mad than usual, so it's kind of a waste.
If you make Guggie mad, he'll just be angry.
I will be angry. That's true.
Still B?
Again, you have to sacrifice it, like a minion ability to do it for any long-term sort of play, but I'm thinking C, but I'm fine with B too.
I'm happy with C.
Yeah.
Pit Hag.
Well, Pit Hag is interesting. Like, you can claim you've been Pit Hagged into like a Barber mid game if you've got suspicious on you. I think if you're gonna bluff Pit Hag, it should be bluff that you got Pit Hagged into something on a night where like the Pit Hag made another minion. Again, bluffing minions on this script is not the way to go most of the time because they're usually pretty obvious.
Yeah. But I think there are times, like, even if let's say a Pit Hag is known and the Pit Hag does something to a member of the evil team, throwing out that, like, hey, you were just Pit Hagged into, enter bluff here, or something to definitively not be in play is kind of huge. It covers up what the Pit Hagging was that night, and potentially, again, in the way that, like, evil tends to target good, makes you look good. It also means that, if you are bluffing Savant and, oh, guys, I just got Pit Hagged into the sweetheart, like, suddenly there's no excuse for you not having well thought out Savant information that makes sense. You aren't the Savant anymore. So I agree, but I think in terms of what it can do in terms of, like, selling a world or covering up a world, I definitely think this is one of the ones to lean into a little bit more, and also one that you can lean into more without necessarily arousing suspicion.
But I want to arouse.
Okay, buddy. Should we go over demons?
Well, yeah, of course.
Okay.
Let me see what's first.
So bluffing.
I don't have that open.
So bluffing a Fang Gu world.
So I think just throwing more outsiders into the game than usual to sort of kill the in-play outsiders is usually a pretty good idea. If you are dead early as like a minion, backing into an outsider to be like, maybe it's a Fang Gu game, and especially at this outsider count, is going to hide the outsiders more, which is great. People lying is great.
Yep.
Especially for the evil team. And sometimes the good team, but it sort of, even like giving an oracle that is getting zeros like every night while doing this, just to say the Fang Gu has yet to jump,
Yep.
is great. Keeps the outsiders hidden.
Yep.
And then if one of them makes it to the finals, well, clearly they've been Fang Gu jumped to because we have 3 outsider claims. So let's kill them.
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah, getting Town to execute the people who are confirmed by your presence is actually really great. I think there is a world where it doesn't really matter if you jump as Fang Gu. Like it's powerful to jump, especially if folks haven't figured out that it's actually a Fang Gu game yet. But not jumping, kind of okay if you can get Town to execute all of the people that are hard confirmed by you simply being there, or a majority of them, then suddenly everything's fine. And if your minion is bluffing the 4th outsider, then you got to the final 3 and it's you, your minion, and one other person. They're going to be looking at that outsider, or there's a very easy world that you can sell where that outsider, it's just like, okay, well, they were Fang Gu jumped. We kill them. We win. GG's. Everyone goes home happy. I don't know how do I feel about where?
I'm thinking B or A.
I'm happy with A. Fang Gu is powerful enough. I think A is where it deserves. Even just killing like a couple of outsider claims, especially if it's not a Fang Gu world. Like, sure, kill the outsiders, kill the Klutz, kill the Barber, that's really it. Kill the sweetheart. If you can get Town to execute the sweetheart under the basis that like they want to avoid being jumped to with a Fang Gu, great. Love that.
Yeah. Of course.
Vigormortis.
Really any of the non-mutant ones, but yeah.
Yeah. Vigormortis.
So I think it's less good than saying there's been a Fang Gu jump to say, that person was Vigormortis killed and is a minion. It does make the neighbors, and potentially the people next to the neighbors, if it's early enough that outsiders are still hidden, sort of start questioning their information in that case. Yep. Which is obviously very, very good. But also, and along with it, it throws us on the outsiders. And throughout me saying this, I have changed my mind. And I think bluffing Vigormortis is very powerful. It does a lot to say somebody is a Vigormortis kill minion, and ended at that, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vigor gets a lot of sort of I don't know. I think it gets a lot of shit in the community. And I think it's somewhat deserved, because removing your voting capacity is very, very, it is a huge detriment. But the amount of times that Evil has won games in Final 3 with only one Evil left alive, it seems bad because you can't control voting for as much, or you can't have as much influence on voting throughout the mid game. But really, there's only one vote that counts, and that's the final vote. And you will have all of your votes during that time. So why not gain something out of it? And especially if the Vigor doesn't actually even exist, then throwing that misinformation out into town and making them sort of doubt their own information if they're next to these people, incredibly powerful, incredibly good. It also, you can use it as a means of suggesting that one of the actual confirmable outsiders is lying, and it's just like a minion with a Vigor ability, or even if you kill an outsider, oh, okay, well, that person is just clearly actually a minion who's been Vigor killed, and go from there. Yeah, I heavily like the Vigor quote unquote block. Um, also
Thinking
A.
around this. I think, yeah.
Yeah.
This is also, I think, Oracle's one of the best bluffs because, framing a Fang Gu over Vigormortis is very powerful.
Yep. I can see that. Yeah.
Yep.
No Dashii.
If they're I mean, if somebody has information that seems poisoned to them, you just suggesting, hey, maybe you're sitting near no Dashii is a very good way to kill players, especially if you're not sitting anywhere near them, which is the important part.
Yep.
But there's plenty of reasons why people would be getting false information. I think no Dashii is sort of the demon that people will jump on last. Like, they don't think it's any of the other three, so they're pretty sure it's a no Dashii. Unless people think that some people on one side of the room have false information and the other side have true. But I think that just saying, hey, I think you're probably sitting next to no Dashii is a great way to just kill some good players. Great.
Yep. And also, and also sort of eke out who is an outsider or a townsfolk. Because if you go up to someone and say, hey, by the way, I'm pretty sure you're sitting next to an Dashii based on things. If they have been bluffing or something, then suddenly maybe the mutant comes out and says, oh yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a townsfolk, but we should maybe look at the other neighbor. I agree. I think no Dashii is we sort of covered this with Spy. I think it's sort of a world that you walk into based on town's own ideas and interpretations of their information. I don't think it's a world you can necessarily easily sell, but it's possible. It's definitely possible, but it's just one of those things you kind of have to maybe get lucky on. Like if you vigor kill a minion Knight 2 and the Philosopher also uses their ability to to gain the ability of someone who is already in play, thereby drunking them, then you can jump in a Fang Gu world from, in a Vigor world. You can jump from a Vigor world from a 0, which is pretty standard for most mathematicians, from a Math 0 to a Math 2, which really makes it look heavily no Dashii. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think... I think I'm inclined more with a D or C, because I think it's just that you can walk into it, and if you do, great, that's good. But I don't think it's... Maybe C, actually.
I was gonna say low B, but I'm fine with C too. That's fine.
Okay. Vortox.
The second anyone has any true information, Vortox is done.
Yeah.
I think I will tell this because this is a story that I like saying because I hate Vortox proofing questions. Someone play a game. I'm the Vigormortis. I'm sitting next to my witch. The witch is sitting next to a flower girl who comes out and says, I'm not getting any useful information because I'm the flower girl and everyone's voted. I know of an article elsewhere. I know the artist has asked between me and 2 other people if they're the demon. I think that is a great in a small game like that, that's a great time to be I'm gonna Vigormortis kill my minion here. The flower girl's gonna be poisoned. The oracle's gonna get a 1. The artist is gonna look like they've gotten wrong information, and I'm suddenly gonna be cleared in this probably Vortox game. And the artist Vortox proved their question. That's totally somewhat off topic because
Sure.
It's more of I hate artist proofing questions, and I think it's bad and stupid, and I wanted to give that PSA out. But I think it's possible to bluff Vortox, but also as soon as somebody has correct information, Vortox, no.
Yeah, I think the way that you or like the only reason that I would ever sort of walk in to try to selling a Vortox world is if I was no Dashii, or my demon was no Dashii, and throwing out a Vortox, you have to, somewhat get lucky on what characters are in what positions. But if you can throw out that it's like, no, it's not just two people who are getting bad information. It's everybody. It's all of us. Like, this is clearly a Vortox world. That can help, because, sort of no Dashii points a beacon at itself and says, like, teehee, being able to sort of rely on, are we sure it's no Dashii? It's probably actually more. Is not the worst, but that's about. I do agree. Once there is a shred of true information, there's also the world that people trying to give you true information and convince you that it's not a Vortox are actually just the evil team in that world. Of course, the Vortox is trying to make it seem like it's not a Vortox game. Like, why are we surprised? Or the minions are trying to make it seem like they don't want us to execute. They don't want us to realize that we need to be sort of reverse engineering all our information. But yeah, it's very rough.
I mean, I think that D is probably the place here.
Well, I was putting straight to F, but I'll do D. D.
Yeah.
D for...
Again, if that artist did not artist proof their question, I win that game.
D for Dortox.
For Dortox, yes. It's possible. You can absolutely bluff it.
You can,
but also,
do it.
It's not great. It's not possible at a lot of time.
And it requires a very specific setup, and like combination of characters, and without, like, in a no Dashii game, bluffing Vortox you might be able to get away with. In a Fang Gu game, there's just no way. Like, there's not enough poison, there's not enough drunkenness to go around. And you really need people to be getting some semblance of, like, misinformation. You need there to be a world where, the Savant is receiving 2 false pieces of information. And that's really challenging. And something you sort of just need to rely on your storyteller to maybe help with, but you probably shouldn't expect it completely. Because that's not the way that the storyteller is most easily going to help you navigate to the final 3. There's things they can do, but not that.
Yep.
And
yeah.
that's enough of the birds and the bees and the flowers.
Wow, I've really learned a lot, because I definitely didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, something no Dashii, tentacle porn. But yeah, this was fun. Again, thank you for being here. Blast as always. And hopefully we'll start looking at some custom scripts and going over our thoughts on them, because I think that's where things are going to get really interesting.
Yep. Anyway, Deviant's my favorite bluff.
Honestly fair.
Wow, that was a great video, because it had me in it. If you want to see more great videos with me in it, and I guess some other semi-decent ones without me, then subscribe to the channel. I don't think I need to tell you how to do that. And if you don't know how to do that, honestly, just don't subscribe at that point.
Guggie! If you did enjoy this video, please give a like or a comment down below. And if you are looking for other ways to support, definitely consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Shout out to our current members. It is incredible that you have all stuck with us, and we are very thankful for your support. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.